Yeah.
we're more.
To some extent, but do you feel like sometimes I feel like there is still a divide between Caribbeans and African
100%.
people?
100%.
And I mean our generation, like
100%.
our age.
But remember, our age is still connected with
The older generation.
the older generation.
Yeah.
That's where the problem,
Literally
right?
the last
And it all,
batch.
yeah, we're the last batch, and
Yeah.
it all starts from like school days, where I've had talks with people recently about it, where all of a sudden it's like a trend, like Nigerian men this, Nigerian men that. But there's a bunch of girls I went to school with, my first school when I landed in England, where for years, probably up until the past couple years, I never used to say nothing to them. And they'll come to my dances and I'll act like I don't know them. And my bedroom was like, "Rah, how come you never say nothing to them?" I'm like, "Rah, in year 7. These were the ones you always used to be like, "Rah, boo boo this, blah 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 that." Every African joke was there, they thought it was banter. Then after a while I thought to myself, you know what, yeah, I'm being a prick. Because these girls have been nice to me boy, for the past 18 plus years. Like, they didn't know no better. They were like little kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I held on to what they were at 11, and for years I just used to literally walk through them.
Yeah.
So like, they'll be talking to my brothers Leon and that, and I'll just be like, I see them man with them, I'm like, oh yeah, just walk off.
Okay.
And them lot are like, you always do that when they're around. So one day, like, I just remember one of them was working the bar at one of my parties. I've gone to order a drink, and I've just said something to her, and she said to me, "Right, like, I didn't think you remembered me." I said, "No, I know who you are."
You just
I
holding
said,
feelings
"Yeah,"
from
I
your
just,
side.
yeah, and I explained what it was. You know what I mean?
That's what happened.
But
It's true.
but it goes back to even things where on the internet where people talk about colorism and they say like, black women this, da da da, and I'm like, rah, you lot don't remember the dark skin jokes, you lot was running in school.
Hey.
But the thing is, for me, it didn't hit me like it hit other people, because I'll say like, maybe because one, I was a freshie, and when I came, like, for me it was just like, rah, what's wrong with these people? And then fast forward to like year 11, like the girls who were busting the dark skin jokes, all of a sudden we was in flavor.
Yeah.
So like within like 4 years
There was
it
a-
changed,
there
you
was
know
a
what I
very,
mean?
very
Yeah.
clear transition.
But when
I witnessed it as well.
But when I first moved here, like in year 7, it was only like light skinned girls and white girls who liked me. It was weird to me. So like when my brethren were like linking and dating girls like early, like, you know, like that first little crushes, like, because I'd come from back home and I already had my type. I didn't get in it, so I was thinking, rah, how come they don't like me?
I think that's a lot to do with upbringing though. Like my dad is dark skinned, my brother's dark skinned, and in my family we're all different complexions, and there was never, like, we were all raised to be confident no matter what your complexion is. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that wasn't the case with you. I'm just saying in my household it was like all of the, I have 3 older sisters
Yeah.
and a little brother, and all of my older sisters just loved dark skinned men.
No,
That
like I
was
said,
it.
like I said earlier, like I said, they didn't affect me because I was just baffled by them.
Yeah.
Because remember, I came from back there, innit? So I already knew, and I already had my type as well. So when I'd come over here, and I'm just like, okay. But I was getting attention from white girls and light skin girls. I was baffled. I was like, how come the black girls?
It's confusing, but
You know
I feel
what I
like
mean?
that's based on their household. So if you've come from a household where you
Yeah.
haven't been taught to love your complexion
Yeah.
and the fact that you are black,
Yeah.
no matter what complexion you are, then you might pull up at school and start chasing the light skinned guys.
I don't believe in, if you've not brought up from a household where you should love your complexion, because my mom never raised our complexion. Like, it wasn't a conversation we had.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? Like, it was just, I like black people. So sometimes it's just literally what's embedded in you.
Yeah.
Or maybe subconsciously what you're exposed to.
Yeah.
I've always been like the only black girl in a lot of situations, like the only black person in the whole school. That's been
Wow,
me.
okay.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so I've always been around
Yeah.
literally only white people, but I still gravitate to black men.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you get what I mean? So I think sometimes, yeah, what you're exposed to or what you're taught, but sometimes it's just whatever your preference is embedded in you. Because someone like me should be all for white guys.
But
thing
you
is
know,
that
you say that, yeah,
It
like
doesn't
someone
work
like you.
because if that, sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah.
if that was the case, then I guess obviously people can change and develop, but how is it that you were so into light skinned guys when we were in year 9 or I don't know, whatever age, and then a couple years
Then a couple years
it's
later,
That's social
it
media,
flipped. No, but social media didn't even exist
think
then.
that was a thing. Yeah,
Like
it's-
the only thing, I think the only things that dropped then was
like TV and stuff like that, and being embraced. Because if you notice that period you're talking about, you saw a lot of dark skinned girls in the music videos. You started to see them in the music videos. You started to see
I think
them
with guys,
becoming
maybe
artists.
the films like The Wood, Baby Boy, and that dropped around them times. But
so it was
I get that part, but it just the switch was so rapid.
Yeah,
It was like they went from looking at Genuine and
Like a fashion.
Shamar Moore and them kind of brothers
to
to
having trade
bam.
songs and stuff like that. So it changed that okay, being dark skinned, you can see attractive people. It's like one thing I really hate about like the white market, if that's what you want to call it, or the white industry, is that when they choose black girls, why do you always choose the ones that are not as pretty? Because there are loads of pretty black girls. Or like when you go to America, they say stuff like, oh my gosh, I didn't know British girls were pretty. It's because you're watching TV and you're just seeing
the
deadest food.
yeah,
She's not
so
wrong.
it's the same thing. Like
Yeah.
there are beautiful black girls out here, and there's beautiful dark-skinned men as well. Like there's some dark skinned girls, yeah. Like when I look at them, I'm just like, how?
You look like a masterpiece.
You look like
100%.
marble.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
there's no imprint. There's nothing.
Glow.
The shade is it's just information.
Flawless.
Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
if they were to put that more on the screen, people will start to realize, and that's what they did. They started putting it out there a bit more, and people started to realize that okay, yeah, there is. But when it comes to the white industry, I noticed they put certain type of black girls because I feel like they still want to. I don't know if I should say oppress us, or it's a case that they still want to keep that in a knit. They don't want us to have too much boundaries. So then, if that's the case, why don't we just create our own lane? And that's why I love the Jews and Asians. They create their own lane for everything. If we can't be amongst you, we'll be above you.
Yeah,
That's what
well,
the Jews
yeah.
have done,
Yeah.
right? And then the Asians have done. If we can't be with you, we'll create our own thing. Do you understand? But I still think us black people are trying to figure out what it is we want to do, because they've obviously found different things that work for them, and like we need to find what works for us.
Yeah.
And I think what works for us is just creating our own lane. We are so intelligent. Like when you speak to most of the things I know now, it's since my podcast, because I've sat down with a lot of men and just brought my attention to a lot of things. Even women have brought my attention to a lot of things. And I feel like if we had the tools, the opportunity, you know, the places where we can sit down and have these conversations, not look like, oh, you're a waste man, or you're all these stuff, or you're a pick me. Do you know what I mean? Like if there wasn't a name for everything we try to do, I think we'll flourish a lot more.
A lot more. But how you said all these groups have their things, I think that's why at the moment the guy at the moment that's on every platform that they're trying to cancel, I think that's why he tried to get himself cancelled, to prove a point.
Oh,
I think that's why he tried to get himself cancelled, to prove a point.